This week on Half Step Down, Jose offers some words of encouragement. No, you go, man. Let's do this. Renee makes a shocking admission.
I think you and I have had a conversation before.
And the boys have a moment thinking about the movie Black Snake Moan. That's right.
Yes, he was in Black Snake.
Black Snake Moan.
He was in Black Snake Moan, yeah.
This week, we got movie songs. I've always wanted to do that. Half Step Down starts now.
Did you know that McDonald's and Disneyland and McDonald's had a this is a rumor, but like a very large rumor, that McDonald's was actually going to be the only fast food restaurant inside Disneyland back in the 60s when Walt Disney was opening the park.
I've heard that before. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard it before.
Yeah, I don't know if that was true either. Oh, so the reason I want to say that is because I was watching this. Have you seen the movie The Founder?
I have. I just watched it.
What a great movie, man.
Yeah.
That's an amazing movie. So I was watching like this interview or this documentary on McDonald's. This English dude, he was talking about McDonald's, and he had mentioned that McDonald's started in Hollywood, California, near the Monrovia Airport. And I had to pause it, and I thought to myself, that is nowhere near Hollywood. Like the Monrovia Airport and Hollywood are nowhere near each other. And I thought that was kind of funny. And I said, man, just if you don't know, then it must be difficult to really picture how. I think a lot of people outside of Southern California think that LA is just like this, like everything in LA takes 20 minutes, and it really doesn't.
Yeah, Los Angeles is huge and it's spread out, man. It's that whole thing. Like it was created by the car companies. Basically the history of LA is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I was about to say that, but you beat me to it. So with that said, welcome everyone to Half Step Down. This is a music podcast where we create soundtracks for any given situation. With me, as always, is Jose Martinez.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Jose, why don't you give us a little information about what the show is? Wow. Why don't you tell us what the show is about today? How's that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Oh, man. Here we go.
Oh, so and it's not that late either. It's not that late today.
We're actually starting earlier. That's all right. All right.
So you know what? Jose, why don't you tell us what the show's about today?
Well, today, Renee, sometimes a song gets used in a movie, right? And then from that moment on, the two are inseparable, right? Sometimes they just go so perfectly together that you can't separate one from the other. That was a redundant statement. But these are those songs that you just can't separate from the movie they were featured in.
And just a reminder, we are not choosing songs that were written exclusively for that movie.
Right.
Correct?
Right. That's
going to be a different episode.
That'll be a different episode. These are just songs that were featured in a movie and fit so perfect that you think of that movie every time.
Isn't it? It fits so well.
You're probably right. Right.
Let's go to that first song. What's the first song on our list?
So the first song we came up with. Oh, God, we're going to talk about it, but let's do this. Hey Soul Sister from the band Train. Basically from every romantic comedy in the 2000s, and also from their album Save Me San Francisco from 2009. Renee, when you write a song like this, do you think, like when you're done, when you put pen down, you're just like, man, that sweet commercial money is coming in?
Oh, dude, when I first heard that song on the radio, that's the first thing I thought. I go, this song is going to be everywhere. And that was before the song was everywhere. And Train is a very big band. So when I heard that song specifically in the film Friends with Benefits with the great with Black Snake Moan's Justin Timberlake. And
that's right.
Yes, he was in Black Snake.
Black Snake Moan.
He was in Black Snake Moan, yeah. and the wonderful Mila Kunis from that '70s show fame. Um, there was a scene where they were watching a rom-com, and that song happened to be in it. And from that moment, I was like, "Oh man, this song! I don't know. It's when you write something like that, I would, especially when you're using a ukulele, I would think, yeah, this is it right here."
When I was doing research on this song, I was looking it up, and God, I wish I would have saved it. But basically, like, one of the people in the band was like, "All right, so I'm going to learn the ukulele for this. Fine, let's just run with it." I think if you're in a band and the lead songwriter is like, "Hey man, you think you can bust out ukulele?" That's a warning sign. Oh, I caught you mid hydro flask.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
Mid hydro flask. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you know what? This song reminds me a lot of Hey There Delilah, because when Hey There Delilah came out, it was everywhere.
Oh my God.
Everywhere. This is, I would think, the pop version of Hey There Delilah. Hey There Delilah was so popular for the Plain White T's that they released it on every album for like the next, like a single. Then they had an EP release, and they had a full album release, an LP, and all that song was on each one of those. So I mean, when I think of Train, I think of Hey Soul Sister. That's just where I go.
Every time. How often do you think of Train, to be completely honest with you?
When I pick up my ukulele, because that's the first thing I learned on it. Yeah, you kind of have to. I don't know. That's just me. I mean,
every
but then
time.
Again, I'm pop oriented. Apparently,
you are a little pop oriented. That's okay.
Yeah.
Every time I hear this song, I think of two things. I either start a weird travel montage in my head where I improve myself by the end of it, or I think to myself, I should buy a new cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah. While we're on the terms of rom-com, do you think that When Harry Met Sally is a rom-com?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I don't think so. I don't consider it a romantic comedy, but I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies. But I don't really consider that movie a rom-com, in my opinion.
You know what, man? I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think I've ever seen that movie the whole way through.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
I'm not. Now that I think about it, I think I've seen it in pieces, the whole thing. But I cannot remember a time where I sat and watched the whole thing from start to finish. I'm going to have to rectify that. That's a classic.
Yeah, that is a classic. It's okay, well, do me a favor. Watch that movie, and then we'll come back to it, and then we can talk about whether we think it's a rom-com or not.
All right, for sure.
And then we'll have a good discussion on that one. How about our next song?
So the next song, my friend, Looking Out My Back Door by the great Creedence Clearwater Revival, man. From going forward, I'm just going to refer to them as CCR because that's how we have to do it. It's from 1970's Cosmos Factory and featured most famously in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Big Lebowski. Renee, I got to ask you this. Do you have a song where every time you hear it, you have to perform a certain physical action?
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody.
What do you... Oh... I think I know, but explain why.
We will talk about this later in the show. We're getting a little preemptive here, a little foreshadowing, but it's okay. I'm gonna explain to you why, because Wayne's World didn't ruin that song for me; it made that song for me. And every time that's
next on our list. But go for it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go, man. Let's do this.
Every time I hear that song, I rock, and I think of just bobbing. I get the worst headache every time I hear that song when I'm in the car, because I don't stop bobbing, and that's where I go with that.
So for me, every time this song comes on, I don't care if I'm in the car, I will just bang the top of the car to the beat. Mm-hmm. If I am in class, because I have a coworker, we play records in class. And one of them is a CCR record, like the greatest hits. And when this song comes on, just play the hits, man. And when you're CCR, pretty much everything's a hit, man.
Yeah.
And I will just bang on the cabinets, because there's nothing funnier to me than that scene where he's smoking a joint and drinking a beer, driving down the street, and then he goes to throw the roach out the window, and it just lands. And it's just one of those all-time perfect comedy scenes. And it always reminds me, every time I see an old car in a movie that crashes, just how little damage happens to the cars.
Yeah. Yeah, those things were tanks back in the day.
Dude, I was recently watching the first Terminator, and the car chase scene where they're like flying.
Are you talking about Judgment Day?
No, Terminator.
Oh, I think Judgment Day when I think of Terminator.
Well, T2 is, I think, the definitive Terminator, but Terminator 1, the one where Arnold's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he's they're having that car chase scene, and those cars are just smashing into each other, and it's like nothing's happening. It's like Matchbox cars, and you got to figure all that energy is just going into your neck.
Yeah. I went to go watch Terminator 2 here, a couple cities over. They have, before the pandemic, they had a Flashback Tuesday, so I would go every Tuesday depending on what the movie was, right? And one of them was T2, and I took a couple of my nephews with me because they hadn't seen it yet. They're in their late teens at this point, so I took them last year, and I said, "Are you guys ready for this?" They go, "What do you mean? It's just a movie." I said, "No. You guys have to be ready for this movie. Like, you guys have not seen Terminator 2 before." And the beginning of the movie, spoiler alert, in the beginning of the movie when they're showing the war, right, and you have all the Terminators smashing on all these like bones, and then you see the ships in the air just throwing lasers and stuff. My nephew looks over at me. He goes, "I wasn't ready for this." So what do you mean? He goes, "Oh man, this is how this movie starts." I go, "Yeah, it is." And he goes, "Oh man, this is intense." And the rest of the movie, he just loved it. He couldn't get enough of it.
Dude, that movie has aged so well, dude. It's one of those.
Really has, yeah.
It's like it's got to be one of the first examples of like modern action movies. Although James Cameron, I would argue that Aliens was probably like where you start to get the modern action movie, but like Terminator 2 is a masterpiece, man.
And isn't it funny how Alien and Aliens are just two totally different styles of film? Like, I would think Alien and Aliens, obviously both considered sci-fi, but just like a different. I don't know where I'm going with it, but I just think that they're totally different, right? In my opinion.
And you are absolutely right, dude. I've spent many an hour watching like behind the scenes stuff on both those movies. And James Cameron even said in interviews, he goes like, "I'm not gonna out horror the original Alien, man. There's no way I can do that better than Ridley Scott did it. So I'm just gonna take that and go in a whole different direction. I'm gonna make a war movie with the aliens in it." And I think that was the best choice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, do you think that Ridley Scott is underrated? I don't think too many people know who he is unless you're really involved in cinema.
Ridley Scott, I think, is a filmmaker's filmmaker. Does that make sense?
In what way?
It's like, some comedians are like a comedian's comedian, like only other comedians find them funny. Like, I don't think the average person finds Norm Macdonald funny, but when you talk to other comedians, they're like, "Dude, that guy's a genius." I love Norm Macdonald.
Genius. Yeah.
But man, like, thing about Ridley Scott is he doesn't take it easy on the audience, man. Like, he's just like, you need to be smart. You need to pay attention. You can't have your fucking face in your phone when you're watching my movie. Like, that's just how it is.
He directed a Gladiator, right?
He did, I believe. Yes, he did.
Yes, right. It was Gladiator. Yeah, I've seen like a list of movies that he's done, and it's when you look at his career, you think, "Oh, Ridley Scott did that." So that was kind of cool to see. I do appreciate that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Let's go to our next song.
Next song, my friends. Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen, obviously, off 1975's A Night at the Opera, and immortalized by Wayne's World from 1992. Renee, have you ever heard the saying, "Brevity is the soul of wit"?
I have.
Do you know what that means?
I have. Why don't you break it down for us?
I'm going to take that as a no. So basically...
okay, look, here's the thing. Hold on. Time out. Flag on the play. So I might know what it means, Jose, but why don't you explain it to the audience who might not know what it means? And you don't have to make me seem like a jackass, but...
It's all right, man, because I had to look it up just to make sure I knew what it meant when I was doing this. because I'm like, I think this applies, but I don't know. So it's basically that the essence of wit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just it basically just means get to the point, stupid. Just get to the point. And the thing about this song, man, uh, it is so appropriate that it was off the album A Night at the Opera, because this song essentially takes a 2-hour opera and condenses it down into just under 7 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
everything that music has the potential for is in Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think you and I have had a conversation before. I'm pretty sure it was you. I mean, who else would I have this conversation with? And I think we said you might have. For the life of me, I don't remember who asked the question and who had the answer. But this always sticks in my head: is if we were abducted by aliens and they told us, show us something about, show us what you got, basically, right? Like in Rick and Morty. I think either you or me said Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen would be the song that I would show them, because I think we both agree that is kind of the epitome of what rock and roll really is.
Yeah, man. Like I think the conversation we had was if an alien asked me to show them what music was, I would be like, this is what music is, because it can take, it starts soft, it goes loud, it takes you on an entire journey in 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I was a kid, I had Wayne's World on a VHS, and it was something that was played all the time in my house. I watched that movie all the time. I don't watch it as much as I do, as often as I did then, but I do, throw it on every, 6-7 months or something, because I just love that movie. And that scene never gets old. And I don't know if it's just more of a nostalgic thing, but when I watch that movie, it brings me just to a different time of my life. And it's so cool. I live in a small town in the county of Los Angeles called West Covina, and they actually filmed Covina, and they actually filmed that the part where they're driving. Most of that stuff they filmed in Covina, which is blocks from my house. So that was always kind of cool to know that they filmed it in my area. And it's that song, to me, if you don't know, I think everybody knows what Bohemian Rhapsody is, and I think if you watch Wayne's World, they go hand in hand. Like, I don't think you don't know what Wayne's World is unless you know what Bohemian Rhapsody is, right? Like, they kind of go together.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How about the next song?
Before we go on, I want to ask you this question about Wayne's World. Do you think Wayne's World aged well?
Oh, absolutely. The first one did.
I think it's still funny.
Yeah.
Even though it's
hilarious.
It's definitely a product of its time, but it's still, like, it still hits. Some of those SNL movies really don't. I don't think you can watch It's Pat and you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah.
And then go ahead.
I don't think that movie was for its time. Like, I'm looking back at the movie. What part would you think was made for that particular moment in time?
Well, I only see a product of its time because the whole idea of the two, like, rocker guys, you know what I mean? But I guess that's what I mean. It's like, if you were to do that now, it would be like two Twitch streamers or something. It wouldn't be two dudes who are rocking out in the basement. But the comedy is just so solid. And then
it really is.
I think, like, Wayne's World was responsible for that song coming back and, like, just dominating again. I don't know how well it did when it first came out. Do you know?
Yeah, I was actually watching a documentary on the movie. It was like a behind the scenes featurette, and it did very well when it first came out.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
cool.
It did very, very well. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, some of those SNL movies, man, just don't age well. I think Tommy Boy aged very well. That movie's still really funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Wayne's World, and I'm gonna go with Night at the Roxbury was pretty good. That actually aged. It's still there. I think it's pretty good. It's still funny to me.
That's one I think I've only seen once.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That's a good one, man. God damn, that meme too. That, like, what is love? That took over the internet forever.
Oh my gosh, forever. How about our next song? Can we move over to the next song?
Let's move over to the next one. I'm sorry, man. I know we got to keep this train rolling.
Yeah, we keep it rolling. That's why we started with Train.
Oh man.
Let's do this, soul sister.
So the next one. Jesus. The next one. The song is "Oh Yeah" by Yellow from '85's Stella, but you know it as the Ferris Bueller song. Renee, how many times have you listened to this getting ready to go out on the town?
I there's a little known fact. I watch Ferris Bueller. I used to watch Ferris Bueller quite often before I would go out. And I don't know if it was kind of just because of the song, but I would always, when I was getting ready to go party the night away, Ferris Bueller was always something that I'd watch before I took off for some reason.
That makes sense.
It's such a fun movie, dude.
You know what? It's like a teenage fairy tale, man. Like everything goes right for Ferris. Have you heard the theory that Ferris is just a figment of Cameron's imagination?
Yeah, you know what? I have, and up until now, it kind of dawned on me that it would make sense if it was.
Yeah, it would, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Hughes was great. John Hughes is such. I mean, he's those movies are timeless.
Those movies are examples of movies that are totally timeless because you can watch them and still relate to those. But goddamn, he captured the spirit of the '80s into 4 or 5 just classic movies. Dude, excuse me. If I was gonna show my kids what the '80s were like, I'd be like, this is Pretty in Pink and Ferris Bueller, and this is 16 Candles and Breakfast Club. Dude, have you seen the video to this song?
No, I haven't. I have not seen the video.
So one of my favorite things about early music videos from the '80s is that the formula for music videos had not been created yet. So it's just a bunch of random shit. First of all, look up what these two guys look like because I'm sure you're going to be surprised. But it's just, there's a little girl holding a son, and then these just two random guys just making random movements because they don't know what to do, man. They just know they have to make a video for something called MTV. And one of the when I was looking this up, the best YouTube comment was one of the first ones. It said, what people think the song is about, sex. What it's actually about, aggressively appreciating nature. Because it's all about the sun and the moon being beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna have to take for if you didn't catch it. I said interesting. I don't know if you caught that the first time, but
we caught it now.
Let me fix that there. Excuse me, guys. Free podcast.
The last thing I always think about with Ferris Bueller is what did his parents do, man? Dude was legit. He had all the most expensive shit in the '80s you could possibly imagine, except a car. But he just happened to have a friend with probably the most expensive car you could possibly find.
Ferris Bueller is I think it should be. Well, maybe it shouldn't, but I think was my idol as a teenager because God, everything he did was immaculate, and he got away with everything.
Oh my God, everything!
And you know where he went? And he did go to a baseball game. You know who he saw?
Saw the Cubs.
That's right. 2020 World Series champions.
2020 World Series champions.
You heard it here. You heard it here
right.
first, everyone. Let's go to our next song.
All right, man. This is a classic that needs no introduction, dude. Johnny Be Good by the great Chuck Berry. It's from his 85. From his 58 album, Chuck Berry is on top. And of course, the great scene at the end of Back to the Future. But, Renee, are you aware of what a weirdo Chuck Berry was?
No, I was not aware.
Did you know? Oh, God. Did you know that Chuck Berry liked to fart on hookers?
What? What the fuck?
So,
okay. Please keep going with that one. Or let's stop it there and go to the next song. I think that's all we need. But go ahead, keep going. Let's brush a bit on this.
So, first of all, he would videotape himself having sex with prostitutes, and would often fart on them. And there is a great clip. They used to play it on Kevin and Bean all the time, where it's just a dude just ripping one, and he just goes, "I want you to smell my farts." And it is just like the weirdest thing about this guy. The other thing about him is, did you know that he would only take payment in cash?
No, interesting.
He wouldn't like
No
let
check.
you'd have to show up with like a bag full of money because he just didn't believe that like he would get it all unless it was cash. Homeboy was weird, but I
Wow.
guess you have to be to essentially invent rock and roll, right?
Yeah, well, technically, his cousin Marvin Berry is the reason why rock and roll was invented.
That's Marvin Berry.
Yeah, while we have the new rock and roll, right? The Chuck Berry rock and roll.
Chuck Berry rock and roll.
Chuck Berry
Renee,
rock.
when you finally do look up the stories about Chuck Berry, all the Marvin Berry comments in like all the videos are just gold. If you want a fun YouTube rabbit hole,
The Marvin Berry.
the Marvin Berry and the Chuck Berry farting on prostitutes. It's God, just thank God the guy could play guitar.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. So this song. Okay, well, I picked this song for the audience. If I haven't mentioned it before, which I'm sure I have, Back to the Future is my favorite movie. With the movie Clerks, those two are my favorite, all-time favorite. So I chose this song. Jose, when you hear Johnny Be Good, where does your mind go?
Oh, it instantly goes to Marty McFly playing that Gibson, that ES-35 or whatever, just on stage tearing it up.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of people, that's what it is.
Yeah. You know, that song probably saw the light of day again because of that movie.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know if this is true, but our buddy Mikey.
Mikey.
Mikey is one of these dudes who he will hate someone until he finds out like one thing about you. But I remember he would hate on John Mayer because at the time John Mayer was like the biggest pop star in the world. Even though the dude is like a guitar genius, man, that guy can shred like no one's business. But he hated on John Mayer for a while until he saw an interview with him where he said that he learned to play guitar because he saw Marty in Back to the Future.
Really?
That's what Mikey said. But when he told me that, it was typical Mike. He goes, "Yeah, I hated that guy." And then he told me that he learned guitar because of Back to the Future. I'm like, all right, he's okay in my book. All right. And it's like, that's it?
Mikey, you're awesome, dude. I have a great, can I say a great Mikey story while we're on the subject?
There's nothing but great Mikey stories.
So, for Jose's bachelor party, we were in Las Vegas, and we kind of all separated to go gamble or do our thing, right? For a while. Hey, let's reconvene the room at 5:00, right? For dinner. And I was in the room a little earlier because I was sleeping off a hangover because I partied hard before everybody got there the night before. And there had to have been probably 10 minutes before everybody was supposed to meet, maybe 15. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say there's 15 minutes left, okay? And I look at him and I go, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm gonna go down to the pool, see if there's any action." I said, "Okay." And before he leaves, he irons this like white, this white short sleeve button shirt. He irons it and he puts it on. He has his trunks on and he puts on these like Raider sandals and he takes off. And I thought to myself, why are you ironing this shirt when you're going down to the pool? And he goes down, and mind you, this might have been like the first time I've ever met Mikey. It was the first time I met Mikey. And everybody came in and you guys were at like, "Where's Mikey? Where's Mikey?" I said, "Just peek out the window. Peek out the window. You'll probably see his Raider sandals from here." Like, that dude sticks out like a sore thumb, dude. And I just realized, like, oh man, this dude's rad. He goes, "You know what? I'm gonna come back, but I'll be back by 5." It's like, you got 10 minutes left, dude. What are you doing? Yeah.
Mike is a god among men, man. He really is just like on his own level, man. There have been so many instances where like our buddy Shankar, he got married in Paris. And Mike will just be like, "All right, man, well, I'm going to see you. I'm just going to take off." I'm like, "Dude, A, you stick out like a sore thumb. You don't even attempt to speak the language. But he always shows back up and he's like, "What you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I met some chicks." Like, I don't know how he does it, but he's a god among men, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything to say about Johnny B. Good before we move on? Let's bring it back to Johnny B. Good.
Let's bring it back to Johnny B. Good and Back to the Future and all these great movies that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, like, yeah, Chuck Berry, dude, Johnny B. Good is one of those songs that it is basically like the staple of rock and roll. And Chuck Berry has so many good songs, dude. Like, the dude is just a... Yeah, man. Just go listen to some Chuck Berry. Just take some time and just listen to some Chuck Berry.
Agree. How about our next song, Jose?
The next one, "Where's My Mind" by the Pixies. It was off 1988's Surfer Rosa, and had that great scene at the end of Fight Club where all the buildings are blowing up. But my question for you is, do you think this song got played out?
You always catch me mid-drink, dude.
I do. Sorry.
Always catch me mid-drink. I don't... Oh, geez. I don't know. I don't think so. Then again, I don't really listen to too much Pixies. I don't listen to the Pixies a lot. But when I do, right, this is one of the songs that I obviously listen to.
Yeah.
Fight Club to me is a great movie from what I remember. I've seen that movie maybe 2-3 times, and the last time I saw it was years ago. So I don't really remember much of that movie anymore. But I remember the song. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it has, in my opinion.
You're coming at it from an interesting angle. Just because I think about this, Fight Club's one of my all-time favorites. Something about the idea of like, just giving up all your worldly possessions and just like becoming this weird nomadic, like pre-Joe Rogan, where you're just fighting and just doing cool shit. But I only asked that because the Pixies for years, right? Like, you're talking about 88 when they're Surfer Rosa, I think a lot of people consider their best album. These dudes were a relatively underground band and lived in pretty much, I want to say, like, obscurity, right? Yes. Nirvana was big fans. They were one of those bands that like your bands liked. You know what I mean? Like Nirvana. Yeah. I think Kurt Cobain even said that his entire goal as a musician was to write an album that was as good as Surfer Rosa.
I know that Justin Pierre from Motion City Soundtrack, he loves the Pixies. I've heard a couple interviews with him. I love to hear interviews with Justin Pierre just because his mind is so out there at times, and some of his influences are really are pretty interesting when you hear the guy talk. If you guys have time, just YouTube Justin Pierre interviews. He's pretty cool to listen to.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and where I was going with that was they were a relatively obscure band. Then all of a sudden in 2004, and they reunite at Coachella, and suddenly they're everywhere, and they're just like the biggest band in the world again. And I wonder if like part of it was that last scene in Fight Club where people kind of like, oh, who is this band? And then all of a sudden you hear them come back at Coachella. In 2004, it was before Coachella became what Coachella is now, where people buy tickets when they don't even know who's playing.
It's kind of like when we had to go to Comic-Con before it became Comic-Con.
It was Comic-Con before, like the tourists show up.
But we can buy passes 3 months before it started, and then 3 months before it opened, and now you're on a waiting list.
I'm on a wait. The first year I went to Comic-Con, I walked up to the door and asked for a ticket, and they just gave me one. Like it was just such a different world now. But yeah, man, strange. Great song, great movie. Good time.
Before we go to the next song, I just want to touch a bit on that. You were mentioning that you think it could be Fight Club that brought the Pixies, that brought them back to the start, the fame that they had. I think a lot of these movies that we're talking about today, definitely, I would think have a big role in where they were at that time, right? Like Johnny B. Good by Chuck Berry or Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. These songs I think wouldn't have had a new breath of life if it wasn't for these movies. Um,
You
I
know,
like Night at the Opera. I think is one of the greatest albums ever made, in my opinion. And I don't think too many people would give it the recognition that it did if it hadn't started with Wayne's World. Chuck Berry, granted, Chuck Berry would still be Chuck Berry, but I don't think people would have specifically known who Chuck Berry was if it wasn't for Back to the Future, right? Maybe people thought people wouldn't know who the Pixies are in 2004 anymore if it wasn't for Fight Club. And that's a great thing about being able to associate movies with songs with films, because even though they're two different, art forms, they always they can bring these things together and just make just bring something, revitalize something in a big way, and that's pretty awesome.
well, and yeah, you're absolutely right, because with the exception of Soul Sister, all of these songs are like kind of classic bands. So you got like CCR, The Big Lebowski wasn't the biggest hit. It's like a cult classic, right?
Yeah.
Queen. I don't know if, other than like classic rock radio, if it weren't for these big pop culture moments, if they would get that kind of pop culture recognition, like all the bands we've talked about, Yellow, Queen, Chuck Berry, the Pixies, they had their little niche, but to be able to kind of be brought up, and in a world, almost all these movies came out in the pre-streaming world, right?
Yeah.
It's like there are kids who maybe they discovered their favorite band was the Pixies, or their favorite band was Queen because they saw it in a movie. And that's what I think is so important.
That's why I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's one of the reasons why I'm such a big Queen fan, is because of Wayne's World.
Exactly.
And Queen is one of my favorite bands now. Well, they have been for quite some time. But it's because of that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's great. I'm glad that we can do this podcast. Even, I mean, aside from talking music, now we're able to talk movies, and that's pretty rad. So let's go to the next song.
So the next song, "Sweet Emotion," by Aerosmith. It was on their '75 album "Toys in the Attic," but was pretty much immortalized again in 1993's "Dazed and Confused." Man, that intro. Dude,
what a great intro to any movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, dude.
One of the greatest intros ever.
Dude,
Yeah.
that Chevelle, man, God, I've always wanted a Chevelle, and it's like a big orange Chevelle with that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, dude, Aerosmith's career has been like a full-on roller coaster, dude. Like, I was thinking about that when we were talking about it. You got to think they were at the top of their game in the '70s. They hit a low in the '80s. Run DMC brings them back from that. They basically rule the '80s, early '90s. They kind of go down again, and then with that Armageddon song, they came back on top for like late '90s, early 2000s. And now you have a singer that's a pirate, and that's about all I got for them.
One of my favorite Steven Tyler jokes is in Clerks animated series, when they're I don't know if you ever seen it, but they're stuck in the freezer, and they're reminiscing on like moments being stuck in the freezer, and Randall asks Dante, because they were reminiscing about the movie Clerks, and if you guys haven't seen the movie, right, there's a girl named Caitlin in the movie, and he asks him, if you were Steven Tyler and you can have sex with one person in this entire world, who would it be? And Dante says, "Oh, Caitlin." And Randall says, "Really? See me? I'd pick Liv Tyler."
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's like, oh God. But dude, you know what? I love Dazed and Confused. I love Sweet Emotion. Aerosmith, I think, is one of the greatest rock bands of all time because of their status in music, right? I mean, regardless of this roller coaster, there's different periods of Aerosmith, and that's what you remember. And I think that's pretty rad. Yeah, they're Steven Tyler, man, is one of those vocalists, dude, that you'll come once in a lifetime. Honestly, he's very, very I don't want to say underrated, because he's not, and he's one of the greats. The one song I do not like, though,
Right.
is Dude Looks Like a Lady, because every time I think of Dude Looks Like a Lady, I just think of Mrs. Doubtfire, and I do not like that movie.
You're not a fan of Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
I'm not. It's too long. That movie's long for me. That's a long movie. It's close to it's a 2-hour movie in the '90s. A comedy. That's long.
I gotta see Mrs. Doubtfire. Let's see how long it is. 2 hours and 5 minutes. You're absolutely right.
That movie's long. Yeah, I love Robin Williams. Good Morning Vietnam. Oh, I love that movie. But you know, one movie I never watched was Toys.
And you know, like that was like one of his like all like it was like his pet project.
Yeah.
You know what a Robin Williams movie? What Robin Williams movie? I don't know what just happened there.
I was gonna let it go, but I have you in my head. I don't know if that was soothing or weird. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I literally just ran out of batteries.
I have my socks on, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
So I think we're good. We're good, yeah.
Have you seen What Dreams May Come?
No.
Check that one out. It's different role for Robin Williams. It's like a serious role. But it's basically about this dude who dies, and his wife survives, but then he goes to heaven. She commits suicide, and then because she commits suicide, she goes to hell, and then he goes to hell to get her out.
Huh. Interesting.
Which you're like, is this a Robin Williams movie? Yes, it is. And my wife, like, I showed it to her. She's like, I never thought I could think of Robin Williams as like a leading romantic man. But that movie made me think. It's also like one of the really, it's got some really cool visuals. I would check that out if you get a chance.
One of the coolest Robin Williams visual
It's
I've
not
ever
just me.
seen. Well, because his name is Williams. It's not William.
Robin
His
Williams.
Robin Williams. God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, one of his greatest, in my opinion, was 1 Hour Photo.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
ever seen when he's it's like him in this white room, and he has his eyes like closed or he's covering them up, and when he opens them, they're empty and it's just blood gushing out of it. I remember when I watched that shit scarred me for like a week.
Dude, 1 Hour Photo has a low-key Evangelion reference in it that is just so weird and out of place, and I don't know why it's in there. But there's a part where like the child of the woman he's stalking is holding an action figure, and it's a Neon Genesis Evangelion action figure. There's got to be a story behind that.
I got it.
Robin Williams is also in a movie where he played. It was like some futuristic sci-fi movie where he played a guy who, after you died, your memories were all saved, and he edited those memories to give to loved ones. He was in some really cool, like, offbeat movies, man.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
He wasn't just the genie.
yeah. His comedy was off the wall too, man. If you ever heard any of his comedy
yeah.
albums, well, we definitely got to have an episode where we talk about comedy albums too, man.
Oh,
Absolutely. Got to that in there. Let's go to our Dazed and Confused. Amazing movie. Aerosmith, great band. Sweet Emotion. Aside from Dazed and Confused, it's been everywhere.
Yeah. Dazed and Confused, an all-time, like, teen classic. Unfortunately, a movie I can no longer quote since I am a teacher now and cannot.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't ever do it again. I'm not even going to mention the scene.
How about the next one?
Next one. Now you caught me mid-drink. Ay, que la. I got the 2-screen deal going here. Oh, okay. This one. Comanche by the Rebels. From Rebels on a Rampage 1964, but featured prominently in 1994's Pulp Fiction. Now, just a quick aside here. I didn't want to pick Miseru by Dick Dale, because that song has become synonymous with Pulp Fiction. Yeah. But imagine you are the Rebels, right? And in the 60s, you just write this song that's got a killer sax solo. Just a good old-fashioned surf rock song, right? It just kind of goes away.
No, sorry. You said... I laughed because I thought you said sax solo.
Sax, yeah, it's got a sax solo and it's saxophone. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That was so funny. Fuck, I'm a moron. No, right, go ahead.
And then all of a sudden you get a call in 94, 30 years later, from some young filmmaker who wants to pay you some money to use your song. And you're like, yeah, dude, go for it, man. We're gonna get a payday. And it turns out that you are the soundtrack to Ving Rhames getting raped by two racist people.
Yeah.
Are you just like cool with that, or are you just like whatever, man? Like,
interesting story about that movie. Did you know that there was it was on the Food Network. It was some sort of I don't know what show it was, but I do remember this prominently. I think it was pies. I think they were showing like the best pies in LA or something like that. And there was a restaurant where they specialize. It's a diner, but they specialize in pie, kind of like a Marie Callender's board, like a mom and pop one. And they had said it's somewhere in like Studio City, I think, and that's where Quentin Tarantino wrote Pulp Fiction. Oh. He spent many days there. Yeah, I think the owner had mentioned that Quentin Tarantino spent a lot of time in that diner, and that's where he writing, and that's where he wrote most of Pulp Fiction was in that diner.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of guy that can like work? I have a hard time working from home. So, well, now I have to get used to it, but I used to have to go to like a diner to work if I had to work from home. Are you that kind of guy?
Yeah, I was. It was never a Starbucks because I would start watching people when they walk in the door and see what they order and try to figure out what kind of person they were based on what they're ordering. And so I went away from there. So I spent a lot of time at a Denny's.
Dude, I did Denny's too. There's a Denny's in Arcadia here, and I'll never forget. I was writing like a 10-page paper, and homeboy was Johnny on the spot with a coffee, like because all I ordered was toast and coffee. And every time my coffee got to like a quarter, this dude would come up to me every time and just be like, "Here's a little more rocket fuel for you." And he would just, and it's like, "Oh, thanks, man," because I had like my laptop and like 4 books. Yeah, so like, that was funny. It's a good dude.
I used to get Super Birds.
Ah, yes.
I felt weird just getting coffee and like I don't know, pancake puppies or something. Those are delicious, by the way.
That's that.
Good. What was that, dude?
I don't know what that was. I was like,
But I agree with you. That was that movie. Gosh, man, that movie is one of the greats, man. So here's my thing. Do you think that Quentin Tarantino has ever made a really bad movie?
You know what? I can say I've seen all of his movies with the exception, and this is something I have to correct. I've never seen Jackie Brown, but I don't think he directed that one. But
I think he wrote it, right?
Yeah, I think he wrote it, and yeah. I think he's in it. But the thing about Tarantino is, and I don't mean this as an insult, he's all style over substance, to the point to where the style is the substance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like his movies are pretty straightforward. Always, like the dialogue is always really complicated and really cool. But the movie, like the point of the movie is always just straight up, this person wants revenge. These gangsters need this suitcase. You know, it's like he does simple stories in such an interesting way that I don't think I can say he's done a bad movie because he's got such a crazy style to him. What do you think?
Yeah. I had this conversation with my brother, and he got mad at me for some reason. He likes to get himself mad. He riles himself up. He goes, "Man, see, now you got me all pissed off." I just asked you hey, how are the roses in your rose bed? And then he gets all mad and he starts talking about politics or something stupid, right? He gets all mad about anything. And I told him that I was watching Pulp Fiction, I think. I don't know how it came about, but we were talking about Quentin Tarantino, and he said that the movie that he hates the most is Inglourious Basterds. I go, that's actually my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. And he got like angry at it. And he says, have you seen Django Unchained? I go, you know what? I haven't seen his later movies like Django Unchained, which has to be rectified. I haven't seen any of these, and I've heard nothing but good things. Django Unchained, Hollywood was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there's another one that I missed of his. And he got mad. Like, he goes, you cannot tell me that you have a favorite Quentin Tarantino movie if you haven't seen these. I go, just because I haven't seen them doesn't take away the basis of the fact that I like these movies that I've seen, and as of right now, this is my favorite. And he got mad because I said, you know, that is my favorite. I said, on top of the fact that I used to be not as much now, but I used to be a big World War II buff. And he got mad, and he's like, you've never said anything about World War II to me. And I said, because we don't talk about World War II, Johnny. Like we don't talk. Oh, you know what I mean? Like I don't ever remember having a conversation with my brother about World War II, so I'm not gonna talk to you about fucking World War II if we've never brought anything up about it. You know, I did go to Chicago. I went to the Museum of Aviation there to go see the Spitfire that they have and the U-boat at the bottom of the bottom of the museum for a reason. You know, it's like, come on, bro. You know,
you know what I love about that? Now you're getting angry.
Yeah, now I'm getting angry. Johnny, if you're listening to this, I'm calling you later. We're gonna have it out of you. You're pissing me off, dude. You're not even here. Stay in Arizona, dude. Piss me off. God. Let's go to our next one.
Pulp Fiction, a modern classic. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Oh, the song, The Promise, the artist, When in Rome, from their 87 self-titled album, and featured prominently in a criminally underrated movie from 2004, Napoleon Dynamite. Renee, were you the person I talked about? I don't know if we talked about this before. Do you understand the appeal of tetherball?
I played a lot of tetherball when I was in grade school. A lot of tetherball. I don't know why. I do not know why, but I played a lot of tetherball. Yeah, tetherball. And I do not. I don't get it. I don't get it. Actually, yeah.
I don't. It wasn't you. I just realized that I had this conversation with. The point of that game is just to hit the ball so that it goes around the pole, right?
Yeah. Damn it! Always.
I tried to make the question longer because I can see you drinking.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Free podcast. You know, that's all you do, bro. There's a circle. Okay, so I'm gonna explain a little bit about tetherball. It's a long pole, and there's a volleyball-sized ball. It's usually yellow, that with the long string on it. You attach it to the top of the pole, and there's a circle around it, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, symmetrically around this pole, and there's two sides. There's like blocks, so they, you know, there's squares, I guess, or spaces between these, and you can't hop over to one side, and the other person can't hop over to the other side. You have to stick to your designated area. And if you serve, when I served, I always won because I was always taller than everybody else. So boom, I just smack it and just keep hitting it and swinging, and then I'd win. And then the other person would do it, and then he'd keep hitting it, and then I wouldn't be able to catch it. And I don't understand the concept of tetherball if whoever serves wins the fucking game. Like, I don't understand how that works. Yeah, so
I remember it being on every playground as a kid, and me, like, I don't get the appeal of this game. Like, the ball's coming at me at 1,000 miles per hour, and then, like, you just want me to stop it, and then I just throw it back the other way. It never appealed to me.
And you cannot catch it, though. You can't. Because if you think about it, if I'm older, it's like, why can't you just grab it with your hand with the string and just toss it back? Mm-hmm. But you can't do that. There's some skill in tetherball. You can only hit the ball.
Interesting.
Yeah. I played a lot of tetherball and a lot of handball when I was a kid.
See, I was a handball and like a Foursquare kid. Those were the ones.
Handball. I remember the names of handball. There was one where if you hit the top of the wall, it's called waterfall.
Yeah.
You know, babies or poppies.
Yeah. I remember all that stuff.
That stuff. So let's talk about the movie.
Dude, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the song. What do you think of this song?
Dude, I love this song. This is one of those like 80s classics, man. This is yeah, man, every time I hear this for a year, I mean, I knew the song before the movie, but both of these, the song and the movie are incredibly underappreciated, man. I feel. Just, you know, classic 80s, man, like that synth kind of having a little bit of that orchestral vibe to it, the kind of British new wave sound to it. And then, of course, man, Napoleon Dynamite, one of the catalysts, I think, now for that awkward sense of humor that is so popular now. Mm-hmm. I love that movie, dude. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I can never get tired of Napoleon Dynamite. You know, I have this theory that there's two types of people in this world.
Oh yeah.
People who love Napoleon Dynamite or people that love Nacho Libre. You can't like both.
I like both.
I disagree with you. You have to like one more than the other.
I mean, I would say I probably like Napoleon Dynamite more just because I've seen it more, but I do like me Nacho Libre. I don't mean to just I'm sorry. You're like, you have this theory, and I'm sorry if I blew it apart.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's what a theory is. So I guess I'm wrong. But I think my Tom Hanks theory is pretty on point.
I think your Tom Hanks theory is pretty on point.
So the reason I'm saying, like, you can like, well, maybe let me change my theory a little bit. Then my hypothesis here is that you could like both, but you can only love one and not love the other. Because I just think that I personally, I've watched Nacho Libre and it just doesn't do it for me. But I love Napoleon Dynamite. Maybe it's because I saw that one before I did Nacho Libre, but I love Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah.
Are they like related somehow?
No, I just feel that those are kind of the same type of movie, right? That really screwball, awkward
man.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I just think that they're somewhat of the same type of movie, and I just think that there's one or the other. But I might be wrong. That's why it's called the hypothesis. But the song is great.
The song is great.
I think it fit perfectly at the end of that movie.
Yeah, man. And if you've not seen Napoleon Dynamite, it's an underappreciated gem from the early 2000s.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I want to say, kind of forgotten. I don't hear people talking about it as much, but man, when that came out, it was like a thing.
Well, I had to put a pause there because not until months later. So I saw that movie with two people who I don't ever remember what their names were. And we went on a Saturday to watch it in Pasadena it was either the Dollhouse or the other one. What's the name of the other theater?
The Lemley or something like that?
Yeah, so one of those two.
Yeah.
Whichever one that you and I went to go see Aqua Teen Hunger Force at. Whatever theater that was.
Oh, man. Damn. I don't remember.
You remember you and I went to go watch the Aqua Teen movie.
I do, but I don't remember the name of the theater, man.
Okay. You and I and some dude in front. There was only three of us watching that movie. Do you remember that? There was only three of us.
Yeah. No, I saw Aqua Teen in the theater twice. And
oh, wow.
Both times there were maximum 5 people in the theater.
Yeah. There was more people at the Clone Wars, the animated movie, than there was at Napoleon. Then when you went to go see Aqua Teen all together.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, so I went to go see that. And it was maybe a handful of people, maybe 10, 12 people. And I remember watching that movie just laughing like crazy. And me and a couple buddies were quoting that movie. And people were saying, I was a junior in high school at the time. And people were saying, oh, what are you guys talking about? What movie is that? Like, dude, Napoleon Dynamite. And we're like, we should go watch that again. We were talking about watching that again. Mm-hmm. And then I think it went to all major movie theaters. And then that's when it just blew.
It blew up like late, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, that was, merchandise everywhere. They even had a cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Series. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great.
Oh man.
Underrated gem. How about our next song, Jose?
All right, we're down to the last one. And this one, guys. Damn, It Feels Good to Be a Gangster by the Ghetto Boys. It's off 92's Uncut Dope. That was kind of like a best of album for them, and the song had previously been unreleased. But fits perfectly into 1999's Office Space. That entire sequence where Homeboy just decides not to care about his job anymore and just goes for it.
Yeah, that movie is. Do you think that movie has aged well? That was The Office before The Office, kind of, right?
I think that movie is one of those sleeper hits where if you've ever had a dead end job. That's just miserable, you can relate to Office Space.
Yeah.
I for a short while did work in an office, and there's so many things about it like that. I want to say that The Office TV show basically takes that formula and ramps it up to 11 by putting in all these goofy characters. But the characters in Office Space, it was like so true to life of having a dead end job that it's just kind of perfect. In terms of aging well, I don't know, man. I want to say it has, because the whole idea of having a dead end job, that's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. Dead end jobs are a dime a dozen, I guess. Well, not right now, but they they usually are. They usually are. Jose, what do you think of our soundtrack here for our movies, our movie songs?
You know, I think we got a pretty comprehensive list here. We got some for everybody. If you want to vibe out, we got the Ghetto Boys. You want to get some serious rocking, you got that Queen. We got it all on this one, man.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think we have but you know what? These songs, the movies that we picked with these songs, I think definitely show our age here, Jose.
Yes.
I don't think it's not out of the 90s or the 80s, with the exception of Fight Club. Or Napoleon, I guess. But
well, here's like, I think, let me just look through real quick. 90s, 90, 86, 85. Fight Club was 99. So I think that is the newest. No, Napoleon Dynamite was 2004, bro. So what's that, 16 years ago?
16 years ago, yeah.
You know what? We will do a part 2 to this episode at some point. And we'll do movies from the last 20 years.
Yeah, let's shoot for that.
We'll do that one day.
More relevant, yeah. Yeah, maybe movie scores would be kind of cool. Because we can...
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Let's go to our next segment, which are our weekly recommendations. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first, but it's not going to help the point you just made. My recommendation for you is both the movie and the soundtrack to Purple Rain. Purple Rain, the Prince movie from when was that? Like 84? First of all, Prince is a badass. The movie itself, you can look at it a couple different ways. Morris Day plays this kind of like hilarious villain, but it's just a classic, and the soundtrack is one of those all-time great movie scores. You know, Prince wrote it, but you got classics on there, man. You got When Doves Cry, Darling Nikki, obviously the title track Purple Rain. Like it's just a classic movie. Let's Go Crazy, one of the all-time great guitar solos to start off an album with. But yeah, man, I recommend it. Check it out. Right. You'll think I'm weird, but just do it. The purple one.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to recommend to the audience because I've seen Purple Rain.
Oh, yeah, Purple Rain's.
I'm going to recommend the film and the soundtrack, Wayne's World, and the soundtrack to Wayne's World. Jose, have you ever listened to the Wayne's World soundtrack?
I don't think I have.
There's a Red Hot Chili Pepper song there that was only for that soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. You know, that soundtrack, you know, when you listen to it, it's just you know, what these two, if Wayne and Garth really existed, this explains who they really, like, when you listen to the album, when you listen to the soundtrack, it just explains who they are. You know what I mean? So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I think I'm getting a little more in depth there, but I mean, I think the soundtrack fits the movie perfectly, especially when you know who these characters, especially when you've seen the movie as much as I have. Like,
yeah. You know,
to understand the character development of these characters, you know? So, you know what? This soundtrack fits. Absolutely.
There's a couple, like, I know, like, if you get a chance, like The Big Lebowski on here, that has a really interesting soundtrack because it kind of goes in all sorts of different directions. But one soundtrack that you had mentioned Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it clicked in my brain. The Beavis and Butthead Do America soundtrack. If you get a chance, dude, listen to that because it's got some just crazy cool songs from, like, White Zombie has like a cool instrumental on there. Rancid, No Doubt, AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, like it's one of it's in, and they have a Red Hot Chili Pepper song Love Roller Coaster, another one that's only available I think on a soundtrack. Crazy.
Interesting. Yeah. Another good one is the Dazed and Confused soundtrack. guys, we'll put these all on our show notes. I know there's a Spotify playlist or someone's already created. It's cool. When they don't have these soundtracks on Spotify, I've noticed that users users on Spotify create these playlists and they name them the soundtrack. So that's pretty rad too. So thank you for the ones who have done those if we can't find them. So if not, we'll add those playlists to the show notes and stuff, get some cool things.
Cool.
So let's hit our final segment of the night. Let's wind this thing down.
Let's do it, man.
So I'm going to tell you guys about a cool little gig thing that I got, a cool little thing that I got here. Jose, I've showed this to you before, but why don't you pretend like this is the first time you're going to see it, okay?
Oh, okay.
So for you guys, for the audience, Jose and I are musicians. I am prominently a guitar player. I've been playing guitar for about 20 years now. Jose's been drumming for a little longer than that, right?
Yeah, probably a little, about maybe about the same, probably a little longer. I don't know.
So one of the things about not playing in bands anymore, in my opinion, is that I don't play too much. I don't play my axe, my shred stick as often as I do. And by shred stick, I mean my electric, right? My electric guitars. I have this Orange Crush 60, which is a pretty awesome investment that I got a few years back. I usually stick to the acoustic, but one of the things that I've thought about is like, you know what, man? I said I got to start playing my electrics more. But they're just loud, right? That's one of the things. So I got this cool little Orange Crush Mini. It's about 3 watts. It's the same model as the Orange Crush 60 that I have, just in a battery. It's a battery powered amp, so you can take this anywhere, dude. It's so cool. It has it has your obviously input here, and then it has at the top of the amp here, it has a headphone jack. It also has a tuner here, which is cool, and it has 3 knobs, which is a volume, a gain, and a shape knob, which actually, for those of you who are musicians who listen to the podcast, as you guys may well know, that Orange usually is known for. So if you turn it up, you get more high-end sound, and if you turn it low, you'll start getting the lows and the mids. You get a little more low mid here on the amp. So that's really cool. I recommend anybody who wants to play. This actually, I also recommend this for anybody who's learning how to play guitar. I think a battery powered amp is, in my opinion, a lot better than having those little 10-watt amps, the ones that come in like those starter packs.
Right.
Actually, these are affordable. This is about $60-$70 at a Guitar Center. But there's so many different models. You can get like one that like Fender, like those Fender twin amps and stuff, like you can like clip to your belt and stuff. They're only 1 watt. You know what I mean? These are super cool. So anybody, if you have kids, if you want to play a little lower, this is always a cool investment. I definitely recommend that. So
sweet, dude.
Yeah. So that's where I'm going with that. So Jose, do you have anything to add? Or are you good?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed our movies, our songs that go with movies. Jose, why don't you give us a couple of plugs?
All right, guys. Remember, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you want to check out our website, go to halfstepdownpod.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at halfstepdownpod on both of those. If you want to get us on Facebook, we're facebook.com/halfstepdownpod. We have a YouTube channel coming soon. We'll have information as soon as we've got that up and ready to go. Actually, me from the past, the YouTube channel is up and running. Just go to youtube.com and in the search bar, look up Half Step Down Pod to find us. Now, back to the show. Remember to check out our Spotify playlists. The links are in the description. All the songs we talked about will be there. And if you like what you hear, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you spread the word about our podcast. Use hashtag HalfStepDownPod to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Everybody stay safe and have a good night. Jose, take care, man.
Take it easy, man.
Yeah, give it up for these guys. What's wrong with you guys?
Just so we're all